Don in London, hello. May 13th, my video all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. One of many videos actually. Yeah, recovery from addiction. My addictive substance was alcohol. Still would be if I were to go back out there and try to emulate what I did before. And also addicted to behaviour too, around people, places and things. Being in the right place with the right people, doing the right things. And no longer addicted to the sense of extremes, having to continually be compelled by physical or emotional needs to keep on drinking or to keep on behaving in a certain way. These days, taking one day at a time, just simply one day at a time, to find out how to keep sober, so that life can work. Life can work as it was intended, and in some way or other normal. And it's really interesting for me, this idea of normal, because I went to the theatre last night. One of the very few times in recovery I've been out to the theatre, and it was a very difficult but very clever play, all about what is it to be normal. And the conclusion I came to at the end of seeing this play, which really was fantastic, that normal is as we find, if we are able, as life goes on. So whatever is normal today might be different tomorrow. Other people's idea of normal is different, and it's unique and authentic to the individual, what they find as normal behaviour. There are also the norms that we have in society, acceptable behaviour that we can understand and be a part of, be included in or not be included in, because it's just not our normal. So these days, what used to be my normal behaviour, which was to drink as much as I possibly could in the end, to find oblivion because life was so horrible, is no longer normal for me. Normal is sober. Sober one day at a time. So how did I help myself with this transformation, and how did other people help me? Well, I have to say, most of the wisdom that came to get sober came from outside me. And I'm very glad about that, because it made me more human-sized again. So from being completely unable to stop the addiction to being in recovery one day at a time. And I do stress one day at a time simply because we only live in one day, today. So if we try and rerun our history, we are in danger of going back to old ways, trying to be what we thought we ought to be in the past. Or we're running forwards, trying to be something we haven't yet achieved. So where do we live? Well, we live in the day. So I'm in a one-day recovery program which goes on rolling and rolling as long as I'm alive. And it's not easy, and some people relapse, and in my early days of trying to understand what sober life could be, I relapsed a lot, because I didn't want to give up that one thing that I thought was saving my life, and that was drinking, because life just felt awful all the time. So it doesn't feel awful all the time now. I just get my normal awful and my normal happiness, same as everybody who lives a sober life or lives a normal life, whatever that is for the normal people. What I've learned over the last 24 hours is to challenge myself on what I feel is normal for me, as much as anything else, but not to judge other people's idea of what normal is. And that's good. It means I value diversity and uniqueness and authenticity in other people. What's made it all work for me is being a part of life again, part of family, community, and a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA because it's full of normal people who are unique and authentic, but also extraordinary normal, like everybody else. So how does AA help me, the fellowship? I just say briefly, I don't speak for fellowship or the people in it, simply because it's unique, authentic people in there, in the fellowship, and they can speak for themselves where they will. But I share about what fellowship has done for me and the literature of AA, simply because it's a message of experience, strength and hope to anybody else who's looking to be sober again. Because we came into the world sober, hopefully, unless unfortunate circumstances made it another way. What does AA do for me? Well, on this little card here is the AA preamble. The AA preamble is shared at the beginning of every meeting, and it reads as this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help other alcoholics, help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And in achieving sobriety, we get back to this extraordinary normal again, that life is new, life changes, our attitudes and behaviour change as life is changing too. So we become flexible again from being rigid and unable to stop drinking. And where it says AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, and all the rest of that, every single person who goes to the fellowship of AA is allied to something or other in terms of work activity, social activity, belief systems, you name it. Everybody has their own affiliation outside the fellowship, which is why the fellowship just concentrates on sobriety. If we're sober, the rest of life can work. That's simple. And there are 12 steps for an individual to live life, or 12 steps, or 12 principles and suggestions which help us. And I've been covering one a month. So in January it was all about step 1, accepting powerless over alcohol, and if I drink again, life gets unmanageable. So I admit it and I accept it on a daily basis. I am an alcoholic in recovery, and if I were to drink again, life would become unmanageable. And the second step came to believe a higher power could restore me to sanity. I realised that I didn't know much about sobriety by the end of my drinking. All I knew how to do was drink and connive to find oblivion from life. And these days, restored to sanity on a daily basis seems a good thing, because if I'm sober, maybe I can be sane and make good decisions, and often with the help of others. And in step 3, which I covered in March, it reads exactly, made a decision to turn our will, or my will, and our lives, or my life, over to the care of God as we understood Him. And because we're unique, authentic people, our understanding of God will vary. Everybody has a unique, authentic take on what God may be in their life. Or if, in my case, as an atheist, agnostic or God believer, depending on my life situation, don't forget, we work with what we know and understand and come to comprehend. So the God of my understanding is unique and authentic to me, as is the understanding of God being unique and authentic to anyone else, given their life experience and what they come to understand for themselves. So letting go and letting God, or letting go and letting the good of life come back into us, by being included in society again, we get the opportunity to get wisdom from other people and also listen to the ideas, beliefs and understandings of others. So the good news in AA is, sober, we can go out into the world and find out what we want to believe. And the idea of God, for me, is very simple. Truth, love and wisdom. It's the truth of what is, unconditional love to and from others, and learning how to love again myself and love other people. And the wisdom which comes to me from other people with the power greater than me is absolutely everything around me. And it took me a while to let go my self-will, let go my understanding of the world as it had become for me, and let the world back in, the real world, reality. And that gave me a spiritual connection to living in the moment. And then in April I covered step 4, which is about making a fearless moral inventory of ourselves, so that we can find out exactly what we found wrong in ourselves, but also right. It's the life story which provides what worked and what didn't work, what were our personality traits which were helpful and the unhelpful ones. And what I found more than anything was it was extremes of behaviour, extreme fear, extremes where I felt I had to put on a brave face and not show my vulnerability, and an ego which said, don't show anybody these things. So at extremes, I didn't let anybody in. But on the other hand, I still needed courage, faith and confidence. And what I found again, extremes of courage, extremes of faith and extremes of confidence which had no foundation at all were unhelpful, because it was blind faith. And if it failed me, I lost it. But enough courage, enough faith and enough confidence to keep on learning life has helped me. So that's how it worked for me. And from the life story, to share it with God or to the universe and another human being, expression of my deepest, darkest past and secrets, expressing them to another human being is step 5. And it says exactly here, admitted to God, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, how we wronged ourselves and others from our life story. And in doing that, we let go secrets which kept us stuck. Or, as some people say, the saying is, secrets keep us sick. Sick in our defects of character, or those aspects of our life that we're not too sure about and don't want to really reveal to another person. But as it says in the readings of this book, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, confession is an ancient discipline. And if we practice letting go those things which burn us, and I'll just read what it says in here, page 56 and 57, it says this: so intense, though, is our fear and reluctance to do this, that many AAs at first try to bypass step 5. We search for an easier, softer way, which usually consists of the general and fairly painless admission that when drinking we were sometimes bad actors. Then, for good measure, we add dramatic descriptions of that part of our drinking behaviour which our friends probably knew about anyhow. So if it's already out there in the world, we'll probably share about it and add it with dramatic effect, because we like to tell old stories. But of the things which really bother and burn us, we say nothing. Certain distressing and humiliating memories, we tell ourselves, ought not to be shared with anyone. These will remain our secret. Not a soul must ever know. We hope they'll go to the grave with us. Yet if AA's experience means anything at all, this is not only unwise, but it is actually a perilous resolve. Few muddled attitudes have caused us more trouble than holding back on step 5. Some people are unable to stay sober at all. Others will relapse periodically until they really clean house. Even AA old-timers, sober for years, often pay dearly for skimping this step. They will tell how they tried to carry the load alone, how much they suffered of irritability, anxiety, remorse and depression, and how, unconsciously seeking relief, they would sometimes accuse even their best friends of the very character defects that they themselves were trying to conceal. They always discovered that relief never came by confessing the sins of other people. Everybody had to confess his own. And that's so true, because if we're trying to tell a story to another person about another person's defects rather than our own, all we're doing is illustrating what we're covering up. So if we see a defect in another person, which is they tell lies, and we judge them for telling lies, how are we looking at our own honest behaviour? Are we honest? Are we open? Are we willing to share the truth of who we are? But it doesn't mean we have to blurt it out to the whole world in a way which is unhelpful to them and to us. We need to find sanctuary where we can express ourselves and find the truth of now. And that's where fellowship comes in, and the meetings of AA. The meetings of AA, simply a place of sanctuary where we can tell the truth and be open, honest and willing. We get feedback indirectly or directly in telling the truth. And if we can do it in a meeting, in sanctuary, then we start to be able to be truthful about our current situation with the world as it is. And if we have no fear of telling the truth, we have nothing to trip us up. And if people like what we say, they probably accept it. If they don't like what we say, they probably challenge us on it. Or if it's just a way of living and looking at the world and they don't like it, they probably won't associate with us. And that's a good thing, because we don't need to include people in our lives who don't like us. 6.5 billion people on the planet. There is no way we're going to be liked by everyone, nor in our own community, because don't forget, those who see an open, honest person, trustworthy again, with integrity, might seem a bit sharp to those who wish to cover up something or other. But that's not our job. Our job, if you like, is to be ourselves as much as we can. And that gives us a foundation for good faith, good courage and confidence, behaving and acting in good faith with ourselves and other people. And that's how step 5 works. When I say I feel uncomfortable about something, it gives people a signal that something is wrong in Don, not in them. And then they can ask me about it, or if they're not interested, they'll walk away. And that's to the good of everybody, because we just don't fit with everybody, but we can fit within our own selves. It makes life much more interesting, because we keep on changing our attitude and behaviour as we go along. And that's what step 5 does. It opens up the door thoroughly to letting go all the horror and the hindrance of the past. And in this book, very much on the same vein, Daily Reflections, the easier, softer way. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. I certainly didn't leap at the opportunity to face who I was, especially when the pains of my drinking days hung over me like a dark cloud. And they did for me for a while, because obviously people weren't sure whether I was serious about wanting to be sober in family and community. But within the fellowship they said, well, you know, your sobriety is up to you. The way it works is this. Why not try it? And of course I did. But it took me a while to actually get to be able to trust other people, and also trust that they would hurt me as much as help me. Because sometimes, depending on the wellness of those around us, people will judge, and that is just simply the way it is, because we do it too. But I soon heard at the meetings about the fellow member who just didn't want to take step 5 and kept coming back to meetings, trembling from the horrors of reliving his past. And those are the nightmares. In fact, they're not nightmares, they're daymares. They appear as nasty shocks which burn us when we experience a similar situation to ones in the past, where we would run for cover or cover up. The easier, softer way is to take these steps to freedom from our fatal disease, and to put our faith in the fellowship and our higher power. So I do put my faith in fellowship, but I also know that people in fellowship are absolutely as fallible as me, and on any given day I'm going to meet people at their best and at their worst, and people will also meet me at my best and at my worst, depending on my life situation. So it's fluid, and one of the keys in there, in terms of a spiritual connection, is forgiveness. Forgive everything of everybody every day, including ourselves. And sometimes it doesn't work, and it takes more than that. But if we let go of what's paining us about the behaviour that we used to have, if we let go of it and we see it in other people, we need to let go of it as well. Otherwise we get stuck in old patterns of anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, unhelpful expectations. So yesterday's play for me about normal, when people were forced into extremes of who they thought they ought to be and then cover it up, it was a real good reminder for me. And I guess a lot of people would have found it very hard, very difficult, if they weren't in recovery. And I know this because a lot of people didn't quite understand the message, not within the group I was with, because we were all in recovery. I think we got it very well, and the more I think about it and reflect on what I saw, I feel it had a powerful message. And it's one of those plays which will probably keep on maturing and maturing in understanding, as people really understand what the actors were portraying. A bit like real life. What is normal? Good question. Anyway, serenity for me this morning is asking myself, how am I feeling? Why? And what can I do? So how do I feel? Tired, because I was out late. Why? Because I enjoyed going out to see some theatre, which actually impacts on my real life situation. And what can I do about it? Share it. And know that the experience was good. So an even balanced place this morning, although a bit tired. All good. And at the end of these videos I will share the serenity prayer, which is to God, good conscience, a higher power of your understanding. In my case it's truth, love and wisdom, which I learned from the universe. And comes to me from the bus conductor on a bus, the bus driver, a taxi driver, a cyclist, the person I sit to next on a park bench in the park. It can be. I just talk to everybody. I talked to people I didn't know outside the theatre last night. They said, what do you think of it? All those things are being included in life. So the serenity prayer, can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference. To God, or your higher power, or your good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me, always, in the moment, and just for today. Don in London, hello, and it's May 13th, 2009. My video's a personal video log of living in recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, and what helps me keep sober one day at a time. So my addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect, never so, workaholic, relationshipaholic, gymaholic, you name it. If I could find a way of going to extremes of perfection, I would be on the path. And of course, I was never ever perfect in any shape or form. We merely make progress one way or another towards the end. The end of what? I don't know. Some people think there's an afterlife, but I think we have to take care of life today. So what helps me most is the fellowship of AA, and that's Alcoholics Anonymous. I cannot speak for it. It has unique, authentic people in it who go in there, get a bit of wisdom, come out again. Also, always unique and authentic. So this is just me and my outlook on recovery. But I am indebted to all those who share their wisdom in the fellowship. So why go to fellowship meetings? Here comes the preamble, which is shared at the beginning of each one, which gives us all a clue why we go in the first place and why we stay, to stay stopped from whatever the malady is, the problem of addiction. So, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So as it says in that last sentence, primary purpose is to stay sober, and that's focused on sobriety. And if we do that, then the rest of life can follow on an individual, unique and authentic basis. But because we have this similarity of addiction, or the desire to be sober, we don't get to that very easily until we're really, really beaten down and cannot stop. Because we always think our self-will and willpower will help us get away with where we are, or get away with it. And the answer is, once an addict, always an addict. So it seems. It seems to be improved for thousands of years. And some of us just ought not drink. And maybe it's because we're sensitive in different ways. So I heard it said somewhere, it might have been in a film, that alcoholics are just spiritual people who are very, very sensitive. Well, I know I was sensitive and touchy towards the end, and I'm smiling when I say that, because I didn't really understand life at the end of my drinking. And these days I have a bit of a clue on a daily basis, just to let learning, experience, strength and hope. Coffee good. And to illustrate what I'm talking about, I share how meetings have helped me most days, and I also use the literature of AA, like the daily reflections, 1 page a day, and there are 12 steps of action in the action program, so each month is representing one step in the daily reflections. Not many people in AA know this because they don't necessarily read it, nor should they have to if they're happy with their sobriety. And this one, as Bill sees it, a bit more thinking and feeling, if you like, on a daily basis. That's in no particular order, the red book. But I'll share the daily reflections now. It's always helpful to me. So it says for May 13th, the easier, softer way. And being May, it's the 5th step, which is to share our fearless moral inventory with God and another human being, or God or good conscience, whatever your understanding of God is. It's your understanding, not mine, and I know I can flit about a bit around agnostic, atheist, God believer. I'm never quite sure where I am, but I guess the best way is to be open-minded about it, and not closed down, because AA is all about opening up the possibilities of choice on a daily basis, rather than being imprisoned in some sort of dark society. Yeah, some people think it's a cult. You can make it one if you like, by starting your own. Anyway, here we go. The easier, softer way. If we skip this vital step, and that's step 5, sharing it with another human being, we may not overcome drinking. And it says here, I certainly didn't leap at the opportunity to face who I was, especially when the pains of my drinking days hung over me like a dark cloud. But I soon heard at the meetings that the fellow member who just didn't want to take step 5 and kept coming back to meetings, trembling from the horrors of reliving his past, the easier, softer way is to take these steps to freedom from our fatal disease and to put our faith in the fellowship and our higher power. And you know, last night it was all about the higher power. And step 2, because in one of my meetings we do a step each week and a tradition each month. Steps are about our action program, 12 steps of attitude and behavioural change. And step 2 is the one where it says, came to believe a higher power could restore us to sanity. And what I've learned is that the wisdom in AA, the fellowship to how to keep sober, is hundreds of years at each meeting if there's a few people there normally. And also a few hundred years of drinking history as well, if we add it all up. So the balance is always tipped from the problem of drinking into the solution of not drinking, hopefully. But some meetings can go off track and get very, very sad and depressed. But last night it wasn't. And a lot of people seem to feel the fear of life, mostly, in their early days, as being just on the planet, and then later drinking to cover up those fears, put on a brave face, and have this very brittle ego behind it. And one of the sayings in AA is often, when fear comes knocking on the door, faith answers it. And I've actually found that when faith used to come knocking on my door, fear answered it as well, me fearful of the world, and not able to open the door, nor pick up a letter and open it or answer the telephone. You know, that's where it takes us. So the 5th step, where we get all the clutter out, you know, the good and the bad of us in this fearless moral inventory, and then sharing it with another human being, we understand that the words are there to describe how we were. So if the words are there to describe how we were, it's happened not once, but millions of times. So we are just ordinary people experiencing what can happen with addiction. That's no reason to... we've still got to live with the consequences, and often people don't want to know us anymore. And that's absolutely okay, because we can't do anything to change their minds, and we are powerless over them. So it's not about us trying to say, here I am, I'm brand new and fresh, please let me back in. It's actually sometimes saying, well, you know, I cannot put it right. No matter what I say, I may not be forgiven by them. And that's okay, because it's their experience of us. We can't change that, and it's not for them to. It's not for us to change their mind as much as it's not for them to change their minds either. So we can only live to the good of what we have left, which could be an awful lot. And I found that. And but you know, doing the amends is hard work. Coming on to as Bill sees it for today, page 99, nearly 100. So 13th of May. Page 99, the slipper, and that's somebody who relapses, needs understanding. Slips can often be charged to rebellion. Some of us are more rebellious than others. Slips may be due to the illusion that one can be cured of alcoholism. Slips can also be charged to carelessness and complacency. Many of us fail to ride out these periods sober. Things go fine for 2 or 3 years, and then a member is seen no more. Some of us suffer extreme guilt because of vices and practices we can't or won't let go of. Too little self-forgiveness and too little prayer. Well, this combination adds up to slips and relapses. Then some of us are far more alcohol damaged than others. Still others encounter a series of calamities and cannot seem to find the spiritual resources to meet them. There are those of us who are physically ill. Others are subject to more or less continuous exhaustion, anxiety and depression. I'm very familiar with that case. These conditions often play a part in slips. Sometimes they are utterly controlling, so we can be controlled by what is happening to us emotionally, spiritually and physically. And that's often when we don't actually keep going and find some way on a daily basis just to look at living in the solution. And when calamity comes knocking, it can come in great big dollops, from bereavements to relationship breakups to loss of everything, material, you name it, it happens, because we're not special or chosen. Once we get to sobriety, we hit normal life, where everybody else and us is susceptible to whatever is going on in the bigger picture of what is civilization. So the gift in all this for me really is on one day only. If I utilise the serenity prayer meditation, God, or good conscience, as you choose, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, simply one day, just one day at a time.